Hey, welcome back. I'm going to get right into it. No, I'm not going to get right into it today. I'm going to do two quick things. I'm sitting on the view here where I'm at is just a huge lake. And this is fifth or sixth day here. And the lake has been different. And it's each day. One day super calm, like glass. The next day, a lot of wind, white caps, and everything in between. And it's super quiet, and I've had a lot of reflective time here. And today I was looking out there and I remembered something from growing up. I grew up on a farm, and we had a thing, you know, the farm was like the fields and then the homestead where the buildings were. And then there was this area that we called the timber. It couldn't be tilled. There's a river that ran through it, a little creek, nothing amazing. But it was on Sunday afternoons, after church, after lunch, which we call dinner, noonday meal. We we'd like as kids we would go down there, but there was this one little body of water that was, I don't even know what to call it, but we were scared off from going near it by, I don't know, some adult who told us that if we went near that water, we would get lockjaw. I don't even know what lockjaw is, but in my head it was like, "Mm," you know, I'd be paralyzed. I wouldn't be able to talk, wouldn't be able to eat. The little lake pond thing, it wasn't even, I mean, just call it a tiny pond, was stagnant. It didn't move. I don't know why it just stayed there. It wasn't changing. It was stagnant, and the belief was that there was something bad in there, that if you got close to it, you would catch this thing called lockjaw, and that was bad. You didn't want to have that. And I was thinking about what we're this master class on narrative, and what I want to talk with you about is like a narrative shifting methodology. And one of the mistakes that people often make when I'm teaching this is thinking like, oh, okay, this is the way to get done. And I was thinking about that, like this body of water out here doesn't get done, it just keeps moving and changing. And that's the norm, change is the norm. The like you're going to change in 2022. The question will be if the change is something that you implement intentionally out of some thought and some decision, or is the world going to make you do some changing somehow? Because there's been a lot of out of control over the last couple of years. And I don't think we can take very much more of that. I think we really need to get like that internal stuff going. So I'm going to show you the methodology today to be able to really take control of your interior life, because that is where the change of your life is going to happen. Okay, so let's get the document camera up and running here. Okay, see if I have enough light for you. I think I do. There we go. So, all right. Ooh, that doesn't look right. There we go. Are we getting it? Come on now. There it is. There it is. Okay. Change this angle just a little bit for me. Sorry about this. I usually like to not waste your time while I do this. So I set it up wrong before. Okay, so let's get our more map going. This is you, and you're made for more. And the more that is particular to you is your way, the way that you want to make a mark. How are you going to make a mark? Your legacy. Make a mark. That's the infinity signal. And, when all goes well, your love life is pretty good. Your life in the marketplace is pretty good. This is your being and doing. This is not a thing I made up. This is how human beings are built. And around here, we call this above the line, we call this below the line. And there, it's one thing to be able to describe this, just as like it's a map, but the methodology, like how do you move from, if you're below the line, especially to above the line, and then once you're, more above the line, we always think we call this quarter one, like do this first. And then we call this one quarter two, do that one second. And then we call this one quarter three, like do that third. And then what happens? Well, quarter four, almost automatically, like you almost automatically you move into the particular way that you're going to make a mark on this planet. Now, we did talk yesterday about, unresolved longing, and we talked about aggression and anger and powerlessness. Like these are all things that are below the line. And so what's the methodology? There's an 8-step methodology that is see if you can see all this. Yes, you can. It's the narrative shifting methodology. There are 8 steps to it. And these, I always like to shifting, and these 9 there, methodology. I always like to tell people, like, this is the shortcut. It's 8 steps, but it's still the shortcut. And whenever you try to, cut this out, like there's got to be in fact, let me just say this, challenge you to think about this in your life. I'll bet the areas of your life that are going well, you've done more of these 8 than you realize, intuitively or with some intentionality. But the point around here is we'd like to talk about, I mean, you're gonna, as I said, you're gonna change. You might be meeting somebody else's purpose for you. Because that's the first step of change, is like, why are you here? And human beings are naturally purpose driven. You cannot take that out of yourself. If you don't opt into this directly for you, what am I here for? Who am I? What am I here to do? If you don't do this, and I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to give you the cheat sheet. You're here to love and contribute. Your particular way is where it gets interesting, but your purpose is going to be more being, more doing. Hence the more map. So you're here to love and contribute. Now, most people, when they write a purpose statement out, it's beautiful. And then the next step is one that's a little harder. Like, okay, that's what you say you're here to do. I'm here to love and contribute. How are you doing on that? As an example, we talked yesterday about one of the narratives that keep people below the line is this narrative of victimology. So if you were to looking at why I'm not loving like I could, why I'm not contributing like I could, the truth is you probably have been a bit of a victim in some things, and there was no choice in that. Things were done and they hurt you and they damaged you. But to say I therefore have to adopt victimology, that's really not true. So that's around here, we call that truthiness. There was a choice. The narrative that I put to the event, there's choice in that. So part of this 8-step process, and this is the sequence, we'll go through the real as quick as I can here, but I still want you to get the meat of it. This is just one. They're like hundreds of, particular kind of truthiness that's getting in the way. And most of us have more than one going on. As an example, if you're having money trouble, you might be having health issues. If you're having health issues, you might be having relationship issues. If your relationship issues, might bleed over here into having not enough cash. Your health issue, your relationship issues may make it harder for you to stay above the line, to have health handled. So the reason I bring that up is the third step is you can't do it all at once. So you have to choose, like, what part of my life really do I want to get my behavior aligned with my purpose? So this is choosing a story, like where to start, basically. And once you do that, it's honestly, it's kind of, I always say, like, well, it's a little hard, but it's more interesting. And why not? What else do we have to do? So those 3 kind of hang together. And I think these are, I think if you want to do this alone, I think you can. I think it's possible to work on those a little bit by yourself. The next three, I think are pretty hard. And that's why in all of the work that we do around here, we always do it, we always have some sort of group component, because I think it's very difficult to do these 3 steps by yourself. So this one is old story. What sort of truthiness is in the picture that is keeping this old story in place? This old story is what is keeping the what is now normal for me, the status quo. The old story is keeping the status quo in place. And look, if you like how the status quo is impacting your life, stick with it. You've probably chosen something good for yourself. But when you're saying, like, I've been 15 pounds overweight for a long time and I'm sick of that. Like, okay, you're not really liking the status quo, but there's an old story, there's an old narrative that is misaligned. It's probably got a little bit of truthiness in it, a little bit of not quite telling the full truth in it. And it probably demoralizes you a bit. It doesn't inspire you to take any kind of action. So this is going on. Now you might think, oh, once we've got this all figured out, then I just change it, right? Like, not quite. This 5th step is really experiencing long-term, what is this going to look like in 5 years, 10 years? I mean, if you take a look at, let's just stick with health. Health is such an easy one. If you look at your health and it's been drifting in a bad direction, and that's been going on for, let's just say, a few years. If you go like, okay, I'm just going to turn this around, like, you're probably not going to be able to, because this is really about leverage. This is really about you taking a good hard look at, where is this story taking me? If I've put on a couple, 3, 4, 5 pounds every year, where am I in 5 years? Another 25 pounds. If I'm getting less and less interested in my spouse, and I just keep thinking it's about, I married the wrong gal, I married the wrong guy, that's all I ever think, that's the quality of my thoughts about my love life. You know what I mean? What happens if you keep that thought in place? You're going to drift into a little bit of an affair, even if it's not a big affair. So maybe even if it's just something that's happening in your head, but you're investing elsewhere. You're not investing in your primary relationship. If you're sitting over here saying, only people with a lot of resources ever make a big go of it, then you're not going to pay attention to how how you've given up on your resourcefulness. So this is a hard step, and it's very hard to do by yourself. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's pretty hard, which is why around here, we always utilize group involvement to just make it easier. Once you get the feeling of like, this is going to be a crap life for me, you get automatic leverage for like, okay, how do we change it? How do we change it? And this new story, you start with the truth is. The truth is, yes, these things happened to me, but it was my choice to turn that into looking for a victim in every room and looking for a perpetrator in every room. And I have kept myself away from people for a long time because I've chosen victimology. There are other things, right? The truth is the marriage is a little rough, but I haven't been adding into it at all. The truth is I'm not earning what I think I should, but look, there are lots of opportunities I didn't bother going after, and I didn't bother showing any initiative. And I didn't bother developing out my confidence or my ambition. So there's a lot of new that needs to be written out thoroughly to create the motivation for this step, which is to plan plan the change. And for the most part, planning the change means planning some change rituals. I'm going to teach you a couple of those tomorrow. Planning the change rituals. A plan is, around here, we like we like to think about like logging those behavior changes that you're looking at, because this stuff is all internal, but this is external. This people can see. This is all going on inside you. 1 through 6, all internal, all quiet, all very internally dramatic, but not drama on the outside. This is where it starts looking kind of dramatic. You start, getting up earlier and start going on a walk, and you start listening to, things that are powerful, that inspire you, that give you ideas. This log, you're tracking the change, and on purpose change. And why is that? Just like a GPS, you know how when you get off course with your GPS, the GPS says recalculating, here's another way to go. Your GPS this is sort of about accountability, but mostly it's about, is it working? And if it's not working, guess what you do? We do some shifting. So a GPS helps you know when you're on track and when you're shifting. So there we go. This is the shortcut. Anybody who does, anybody who's going to do narrative shifting, that is permanent. Remember, around here, I go for permanence. I'm interested in people spending a year getting a permanent change on the things that they need so that they can get more. Like once you get the change over here that you need and here that you need, there's more stuff you're going to want over here and over here. And that's good. We're built that way. It's a big part of why as a species, we've created the good things that we've created. Now we have to stop thinking that this is just about consuming more and think that it's about, maybe being more and doing more. Okay. That's it. And tomorrow I'm going to talk with you about a couple of rituals, excuse me, that are pretty useful in terms of, like beginners getting above the line a bit. Okay, talk soon.